Hey guys, it's Eric here and this is my unboxing and review of the Redmi K20 Pro. Now I used the Pocophone F1 for a good 6 months and it served me well, but having switched, I'll be sharing everything from my initial impressions to buyer's remorse. Hopefully it helps you decide if you need to make a switch or save your money and stick with the Pocophone F1. This is the Chinese version because that's the only one available right now. The box is black and purple, which is contrary to all the red themed posters Xiaomi has put out, and in it you have the phone. I got excited and took it out off camera and set it up, but let's remove the sticker on the front and on the back. This color is flame red, looks like a mix of black and red oil potions, and it's very satisfying watching the colors twirl. It also comes in glacier blue and carbon black. Xiaomi usually holds back on goodies in the box, probably to keep the price down. In the envelope, we have the SIM ejector tool, some specification guide I think, a nice plastic case that fits really well, which is cool because the case on the Pocophone was a loose fit right out the box and I had to get this one. We get an 18-watt fast charger and a USB Type-C cable. On the front, you have a 6.39-inch Full HD Plus Super AMOLED display with 19.5 by 9 aspect ratio. On top of that display, you have an earpiece and your 20 megapixel camera when it pops up. On the back, you have a 48 megapixel main shooter, an 8 megapixel telephoto lens, and a 13 megapixel ultra wide lens with dual flash. On the left, you have nothing. On the right, you have your power and volume rocker keys. On the top, you have a notification LED, a 3.5mm headphone jack, and a microphone. On the bottom, you have a speaker, a noise cancellation microphone, a USB Type-C port, and a dual SIM tray that holds two 4G LTE nano SIMs with no option for a memory card. The K20 Pro uses a glass metal sandwich design, which is as premium as it gets in 2019. It does look super cool to everyone who's seen it so far, and of course you know the Poco F1 was overly simple, or some might even say ugly, as at the time it was announced. It feels solid in the hand, and then there's Gorilla Glass 5 protection, but I think the biggest concern for most people is how durable the pop-up camera actually is. I'm pretty confident about it because I've done a little bit of research, but really only time will tell. It does help that when you drop it accidentally, the app closes and the camera retracts into the phone quickly to preserve the life of the motorized part. There's also a warning to remind you that it's not a toy. Let's talk about that display. The Super AMOLED is real crispy, guys. The Poco F1 clearly had a lot of issues surrounding the display, from the screen bleeding that I have on my unit here to the touch issues which a couple of people reported in the comments of my review. The display is definitely a lot better for consuming content because there's no notch whatsoever and the bezels are tiny. In the display settings, yes, we have dark mode now, and because it's AMOLED, this saves you some of that battery, if only a teeny little bit. It runs on Android 9 Pie with MIUI version 10.3.5 slapped on top of it. I have the 128GB version with 6GB of RAM. There is no SD card support on this guy, which is one of the biggest disappointments having switched from the Pocophone. I haven't used an SD card on my phone in years, but lots of people who buy phones in this price range have had a long history of using SD cards and might want to skip the K20 Pro or K20 series just because of that tiny omission. Moving on, it comes in other storage variants such as 256 and 64GB, as well as RAM options up to 8GB. The under-display fingerprint sensor is not as fast as the Pocophones, but it is fast enough if you know what you're doing. It's a bit of a learning curve right now. If it's too much of a hit or miss at first, you can double tap to wake your phone in order to know exactly where to place your thumb. Muscle memory kicks in after a few days. It does work with the screen protector on, but not so much when the display is wet because it is an optical fingerprint sensor. I haven't gotten the face unlock update yet, but it's not as secure and requires a motorized pop-up action, so I may not use it after all. About the performance of this guy, oh boy, I thought it would be subtle in comparison to the Poco F1, which is already pretty fast, but the Snapdragon 855 7nm processor is incredibly fast. You also get accelerated download speeds, which is something I didn't even know I needed until now. This cut down the minutes I spent downloading and setting up apps to about half. Now this is the most flagship killer feature on this guy. It is all about that CPU. There's one more thing. It holds apps running in the background for way longer than the Poco F1 ever did. Poco F1 would have closed the PUBG game in the background after going through these apps in and out, including the camera. I think RAM management is something that MIUI just didn't get right up until now. When it comes to gaming, I played PUBG on max settings and it ran smoothly. I had no heating issues whatsoever, ran way cooler than it did on the Poco F1. You can install Fortnite and the Adreno 640 GPU is capable of running that smoothly as well. About battery life, I had some pretty heavy usage in my short time with it. I installed all my apps, I downloaded my heavy WhatsApp backup, I played PUBG, I tested the camera at length, and I had a bad 4G service while connected to Wi-Fi. At about 8 PM, I was down to 13% and this gave me 7 hours of screen on time, which to me is pretty darn good for everything I put this guy through all in one day. I usually don't set up all the phones I review as my daily driver but as my secondary phone, but on this guy I did. I would say battery life is nothing to worry about and is delivering as expected from a 4000 mAh battery. It took me 1 hour and 13 minutes to charge from 0 to 100%. With the charger included in the box, it does support fast charging 4+, which means you can use a 27-watt charger if you have one lying around. About the camera, this really is where you get exactly what you pay for, which isn't a bad thing. It's a 48 megapixel lens. I really cannot call it a flagship camera killer in any way, not when there's the likes of the Pixel 3a and 3a XL on the market. Here are some of the photos I took side by side the Poco F1 and also photos taken with GCAM. GCAM hasn't been optimized for this guy yet. I had to install the one for the OnePlus 7 and it runs without crashes. You can see the difference in the selfies, but the back camera kinda comes dangerously close to the GCAM photos, which means it's way better than the Pocophone's default camera. The K20 Pro spells a premium future for Redmi. It is definitely killing many flagships and other relatively expensive mid-range phones in 2019, whether anyone likes it or not. You get a whole lot more than what you pay for and some change. Aside the missing SD support, there's one other con I must mention, and it's that the notification LED on the pop-up camera is invisible even in pitch darkness. You can set the top of your phone to point towards you in order to see it, but that's a whole other unique behavior. The price of the K20 Pro is a feature in itself. I got the 128GB variant off of a merchant who already shipped it in for 156,000 naira, which converts to $430 US. No buyer's remorse whatsoever because the K20 Pro is the best value for money right now, period. When the dust clears or after the global launch, it's expected to start at around $370 for the 64GB variant. Thanks for watching, and if you made it to the end, do give this video a thumbs up and share it. Also follow me on Twitter and Instagram to see what I'm up to. Do subscribe for more videos like this as it will mean a lot to me, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.